I never believed in second chances. Not after my divorce left me hollowed out at 35, staring at the ceiling of my one-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle, like it held the answers to why love always curdled into resentment. That's why, when I met Elena at that dimly lit jazz bar on a rainy Tuesday in 2015, I almost walked away. She was sitting alone at the end of the bar, nursing a gin and tonic, her dark hair cascading over one shoulder like a waterfall at midnight, and her eyes, God, those eyes, were the color of storm clouds, pulling you in before you even realized you were drowning. She wore a simple black dress that hugged her figure just enough to make you forget the chill outside, and when she looked up and smiled, it wasn't the polite kind. It was the kind that whispered secrets you weren't sure you wanted to hear. I slid onto the stool next to her, ordered a whiskey neat, and said something stupid about the saxophone player sounding like he'd swallowed a ghost. She laughed, a low, throaty sound that vibrated through me, and just like that, we were talking, about the rain that never stopped in the city, about dreams that slipped away like smoke, about how the world felt heavier after dark. By the end of the night, we'd shared a cab back to my place, her hand brushing mine as we stumbled through the door, lips meeting in a frenzy that tasted like forgotten promises. Elena was a mystery wrapped in silk. She didn't talk much about her past, deflecting with that smile whenever I probed. The past is a locked door, darling, she'd murmur, tracing circles on my chest with her fingertip. Why pick at the hinges when the present is so alive? And alive it was. We spent weeks tangled in sheets, exploring every inch of each other like archaeologists unearthing treasure from forbidden ruins. She had this way of moving, fluid and deliberate, as if she'd danced through lifetimes, and her stories, when she did share, were vivid, laced with details that painted pictures in my mind. Cobblestone streets in Prague under gas lamps, the hum of typewriters in smoky newsrooms, the crackle of vinyl records spinning tales of heartbreak. I fell hard, faster than I'd ever thought possible, proposing to her on a whim one crisp autumn morning as we walked through Pike Place Market, the fishmongers tossing salmon overhead like acrobats. She said yes without hesitation, her eyes sparkling with something I mistook for joy, and we married in a quiet ceremony at City Hall 2 months later, just us and a bored officiant who probably thought we were insane for rushing it. The first hint that something was off came on our honeymoon in the San Juan Islands, that paradise of evergreens and salt air where ferries cut through fog like knives. We'd rented a cabin overlooking the water, the kind with a stone fireplace and windows that framed the Olympics like a painting. Elena loved it there, spending hours on the porch sketching in a leather-bound notebook she'd pulled from her suitcase. Sketches of ferries, seals basking on rocks, my face half-shadowed by the light. But one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in blood oranges, she froze mid-laugh while we unpacked takeout from the local Thai place. "What's this?" she asked, holding up my smartphone. Her brow furrowed like she discovered an alien artifact. I chuckled, explaining it was just a phone, for calls, emails, the internet. She turned it over in her hands, thumbing the screen tentatively, and when it lit up with notifications, she handed it back like it burned. "Too much noise," she said softly, but her eyes lingered on it, distant, as if remembering a world without such intrusions. I brushed it off as quirkiness. Artists were eccentric, right? And pulled her close, losing myself in the warmth of her skin, the way she arched against me like she was trying to merge our souls. Back in Seattle, life settled into a rhythm that felt too perfect to be real. I worked as a software engineer, debugging code in a glass tower overlooking the sound, while Elena painted in our loft, canvases blooming with surreal landscapes. Cities crumbling into oceans, faces dissolving into stars. She sold a few pieces through a local gallery, enough to cover her supplies, and we'd celebrate with bottles of cheap Merlot and slow dances in the kitchen to Coltrane records she'd insisted on buying from a dusty shop in Capitol Hill. But the cracks started showing, small at first like hairline fractures in porcelain. She'd flinch at car horns, claiming they reminded her of air raid sirens from some childhood memory she never elaborated on. Once, flipping through channels on the TV, she landed on a news segment about the Berlin Wall's fall, and her face drained of color. "They tore it down?" she whispered, as if it were yesterday's headline, not a quarter-century old. I teased her about being a history buff, but she didn't laugh. Instead, she changed the subject, pulling me into the bedroom with an urgency that bordered on desperation. It was the dreams that really gnawed at me, mine, not hers. I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding, images flickering like a faulty reel. Elena standing at the edge of a cliff, wind whipping her dress, reaching for a hand that wasn't there. Shadows closing in on her in a crowded subway, faces twisting into accusations. A newspaper headline screaming her name, dated 1989, smeared with what looked like blood. I'd shake it off, blame the Thai food or the full moon. But the unease lingered, a low hum in my veins. One night, after a particularly vivid nightmare where she dissolved into mist before my eyes, I couldn't sleep. Elena was out cold beside me, her breathing steady. So I slipped from the bed and padded to the living room, firing up my laptop in the blue glow of the screen. Curiosity, that old devil, had me typing her name into the search bar. Elena Vos. Nothing. No social media, no mentions, not even a high school alumni page. I tried variations, Elena Vos Seattle, Elena Vos artist, and still zilch. A deeper dive into public records turned up a ghost. A marriage license from 1987 to some guy named Marcus Hale, dissolved in '88, and then nothing. No death certificate, no new marriages, no trace. It was like she'd vanished into thin air after that. The next morning, I watched her over coffee. The way she stirred honey into her mug with deliberate swirls, humming a tune I didn't recognize. Something old, vaudeville-era melancholy. Elena, I said casually, tell me about your family, parents, siblings. She paused, spoon midway to her lips, and for a split second, her eyes went blank, like a radio losing signal. Then the smile returned, soft and evasive. Gone, all of them. Car accident when I was young. It's why I don't like talking about it. Her voice cracked just enough to sell the lie, or the truth. I couldn't tell anymore. I nodded, dropping it, but the seed was planted, sprouting thorns that pricked at me during quiet moments. That afternoon, while she was at the gallery drop-off, I rummaged through her things. Not proud of it, but desperation has a way of rewriting morals. In the back of her sketchbook, tucked between pages yellowed with age, I found a Polaroid. Elena, younger, laughing in the arms of a man with a mustache and a leather jacket. The timestamp faded but legible, July 1989. Behind them, a sign for Coney Island, the cyclone roller coaster looming like a skeletal beast. My stomach twisted. She looked exactly the same, not a day older, not a wrinkle more. I confronted her that evening, the photo trembling in my hand as I laid it on the kitchen table. The loft smelled of turpentine and rain, the city lights twinkling mockingly through the windows. Elena, what the hell is this? You told me you grew up in the Midwest, not New York. And that date, 1989? You were what, a kid then? She stared at the image, her face a mask of porcelain calm, then met my gaze with those storm cloud eyes, now swirling with something darker, like thunderheads gathering force. It's nothing, love. An old fling, a summer I don't dwell on. But her voice was too steady, her hands too still as she reached for it. I yanked it back. Bullshit. I searched for you. There's no record after '89. No you at all. Who are you, really? The air thickened, charged, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker across her features. Not for herself, but for me, like she was shielding a secret that could shatter us both. She stepped closer, her perfume, jasmine and something metallic, like ozone, enveloping me. Stop digging, Alex. Some doors are locked for a reason. Open them, and everything changes. I didn't listen. Obsession has teeth, and it bit down hard. The next day, I called in sick, spent hours in the public library's microfiche room. The musty scent of old newsprint clinging to my clothes like guilt. There it was, buried in the New York Times archives, August 15th, 1989. Young woman found dead in East River, suspected drowning. Elena Marie Vos, 28, artist and wife of missing financier Marcus Hale. Foul play suspected. Hale vanished days before. The grainy photo accompanying the article was her, my Elena, smiling serenely at an art opening. The same black dress from the jazz bar, the same cascade of hair. My world tilted, the room spinning as I printed it out, fingers numb, drowned, dead. But she was alive, warm, breathing beside me last night, her nails raking my back in passion. I raced home, the papers clutched like talismans, bursting through the door to find her packing. Suitcases open on the bed, canvases rolled under her arm. Elena! I shouted, waving the article. She turned slowly, her expression a cocktail of sorrow and steel. You found it. I hoped you wouldn't. What followed was a torrent of words, her voice unraveling the threadbare tapestry of our life. She wasn't a ghost, not exactly. Something worse, or better, depending on the light. In 1989, Marcus had debts that drowned him and her with him. He'd staged her death, pushed her into the river during a fight on the Brooklyn Bridge. Weights tied to her ankles, a final gift to escape his creditors. But she'd fought, clawed her way to the surface, washed up on a mudflat downstream. Half dead, ribs cracked, lungs burning with brackish water. A fisherman found her, no ID, no memory, just fragments like shattered glass. He nursed her back in a shack on the edge of the city, and when she emerged, Elena Voss was erased, reborn as nothing. No name, no past. She drifted west, reinventing herself in shadows, painting to survive, loving no one until me. I saw you in that bar, Alex, she whispered, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. You looked so lost, like I felt all those years. I wanted to save us both. But the article mentioned suspects, whispers of a lover's triangle, and Hale's body never found. He's still out there, she said, voice dropping to a hiss. Watching, waiting. I ran from him then, and I've been running since. The revelation hung between us like a guillotine blade, suspense coiling in my gut as sirens wailed distantly outside. I wanted to hold her, to flee with her to some island where debts and deaths couldn't follow, but doubt gnawed deeper. Why marry me? Why now? She touched my face, her fingers cool as river stones. Because with you, I felt alive again. Not a shadow. But if he knows, if he sees the life we built. Her words trailed off as a knock echoed through the loft, sharp, insistent, like knuckles on bone. We froze, eyes locking in mutual terror. Through the peephole, a man in a trench coat, face obscured by a fedora, holding a manila envelope. Mrs. Hale. His voice was gravel, laced with East Coast grit. Package for Elena Voss. My blood ran cold. He knew both names, both ghosts. Elena backed away, whispering, hide the photo. Don't answer. But curiosity, that serpent, uncoiled in me. I cracked the door, chain still latched. Wrong address. He didn't flinch, just slid the envelope through the gap, his eyes, pale, predatory, locking onto mine. Tell her Marcus says hello, and that the past catches up, one way or another. The door slammed, but the echo lingered, a pulse in the silence. Inside the envelope, more photos, us at the market, proposing, her at the gallery, me leaving for work. Surveillance, meticulous, spanning months. A note in spidery script. You can't outrun the tide. Love. Come home or he pays. Me. The river's pull, claiming another. Elena crumpled against the wall, sobbing silently, and in that moment, I saw the weight of 30 years in her eyes, the terror of submersion, the gasp for air that never quite filled her lungs. We had to run, but where? The city felt like a web now, strands tightening. That night, we boarded a red-eye to Portland under false names I'd forged with my coding skills. Digital ghosts in a world of traces. On the plane, her head on my shoulder, I whispered plans. New identities, a cabin in the Cascades, paintings sold online through proxies. She nodded, but her grip on my hand was vice-tight, knuckles white as bone. Portland was a blur of rain-slicked streets and anonymous motels, the neon buzz of diners masking our paranoia. We'd check in under aliases, Tom and Lily Harper, paying cash, avoiding cameras, but sleep evaded us, fractured by shadows that slithered across motel ceilings. Elena sketched feverishly portraits of Marcus. Sharp jaw, mustache gone gray, eyes like pits. He aged, she muttered. But not his hunger. I scoured dark web forums from a burner laptop, piecing together Hale's trail. A ghost himself, reinvented as a hedge fund shark in the Caymans, laundering money through art auctions. One auction, in Vancouver next week, featured her style. Surreal drownings, canvases I'd seen her destroy in fits of rage. He was baiting her, drawing her north. Suspense thickened like fog rolling in from the Willamette. Every stranger's glance a potential blade. One afternoon, in a coffee shop thick with the scent of espresso and damp wool, my phone, prepaid, untraceable, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoying the view, Alex? She's mine. Always was. Attached, a live feed from the shop street cam, us framed like targets. Panic surged, hot and electric. We bolted, weaving through markets and alleys, hearts hammering in sync. Elena's breath came in ragged gasps, her hand slick in mine. The bridge, she panted. He'll corner us there, like before. We ditched the car at the edge of town, hopped a Greyhound north, the bus rumbling like a beast through twilight forests. Hours blurred into a haze of taillights and whispered confessions. Her survival stories, the fisherman's kindness turning sour when he demanded payment in flesh, the years of hostels and hunger. I thought marriage would anchor me, she said, tears glistening. But anchors drag you under. I held her, vowing protection, but inside, fear gnawed. Was she victim or siren, luring me to depths? Vancouver loomed, the auction a siren's call. We couldn't resist. It was our chance to confront, to end it. In a seedy waterfront hotel, we plotted. I'd pose as a buyer, spike his drink with something to loosen tongues, extract a confession. Elena would watch from the shadows, her paintings the lure. The gallery was a cavern of wealth. Crystal chandeliers dripping light onto walls lined with masterpieces. Champagne flutes clinking like ice in veins. I wore a rented tux, badge reading, Thomas Riley, private collector, heart thudding as I bid on her piece. Submerged echoes. A woman sinking into azure oblivion. Bubbles rising like regrets. The gavel fell, mine for $50K I didn't have, but it bought proximity. Marcus Hale emerged from the crowd like a specter materializing, tall, silver-haired, eyes the color of polluted rivers. He shook my hand, grip iron. Fine taste, Mr. Riley. The artist's work has history. We retreated to a private lounge, velvet curtains muffling the murmurs outside. I poured scotch, slipping in the sedative colorless, odorless, procured from a shady pharmacist in Portland. He sipped, eyes narrowing over the rim. You look familiar. Seen you in the papers? Or perhaps, with my wife. The word hung venomous and time-fractured. His laugh was a bark, hand slamming the glass down. Elena thought she could die and rise anew. But debts don't drown, boy. They resurface. The drug hit, his pupils dilating, words slurring into rage. Pushed her off that bridge myself. Thought it'd solve everything. But the bitch swam. Tracked her for years, watching her play house. My fist connected with his jaw before I registered the motion. Bone crunching, blood spraying the damask wallpaper. Alarms wailed as security swarmed, but Elena burst through the doors like avenging fury, a fire extinguisher in hand. Our improvised weapon, swinging it like a battering ram. Chaos erupted. Shouts, shattering glass, bodies tumbling in a heap. We fled into the night, Vancouver's streets a labyrinth of fog and fairies. Hale's curses echoing behind us until sirens swallowed them. We made it to the docks, stealing a skiff under cover of darkness. The engine's growl propelling us into the Strait of Georgia, stars wheeling overhead like indifferent witnesses. Adrenaline ebbed, leaving exhaustion and a fragile peace. Elena curled against me in the bow, the boat rocking gently. It's over, I murmured, but doubt lingered. Had security caught him? Or was he already phoning contacts, unleashing hounds? Dawn broke crimson, painting the waves in fire, and as Victoria's spires pierced the horizon, she stirred, pressing a kiss to my temple. Thank you, Alex, for seeing me. But in her eyes, I glimpsed the river's shadow, the endless pull. We docked, blending into the tourist throng. But as we boarded a flight south, real names be damned. A final text buzzed. Enjoy the honeymoon, lovebirds. The tide always turns. Attached. A photo of the skiff, time-stamped minutes ago. He was free or someone worse was pulling strings. We ran again, into the unknown. Her hand in mine a lifeline or a chain. The suspense of survival our eternal vow. And in the quiet moments, when the world held its breath, I wondered. Had I married a woman who died in 1989? Or had she, in loving me, resurrected us both, only to drag me under with her?